Hello, everybody. Welcome to Confidently Be You. My name is Jennifer Shlomovich, and today my special guest is Kate Kunkel. Kate turned her mother's tragic illness and death from dementia into her mission in life. When she learned that most dementias were preventable with lifestyle modifications, Kate expanded her healing work as a sound therapist and vegan nutritionist and became a licensed brain health coach. Through her best-selling books and coaching programs, Kate has helped hundreds of people remedy the mental and physical health issues that can threaten their ability to learn, remember, make good decisions, and enjoy life. Kate, welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be here.
I'm happy to have you here. And so today we're going to talk about a really important topic, which is navigating change and keeping your sanity, which I think anybody can relate to in some capacity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Especially over the last 2 years. We have all had a lot of changes and working very hard to keep our sanity.
Absolutely. The past couple of years have definitely tested our sanity, I think, in a lot of ways. So before we get started, what is your experience with, well, first tell us a little bit about your work, and then we'll dive into the topic.
Sure. Well, I'm a brain health coach. I started this whole process because of Mom's diagnosis with dementia, and I had to get studying because I was hoping that I could do something to help her to stop this horrible thing. She was pretty well advanced though, and there wasn't really a lot that I could do to help her except make her feel happier. Like I did things to help her stay engaged and as active as we could, but her process led me in a direction that I just knew I had to follow because I'd been doing healing work with sound and so forth in the past. I'm even a Reiki master and I do a bunch of other things, but I realized that those could be incorporated. And if I studied and figured out a path, then I could help others before it got too late. Because the whole thing is, once you're diagnosed with dementia, you've already had it for 20 or 30 years.
Oh, wow.
So my goal is to help people not get that diagnosis, to help people improve their health, their lifestyle, so that that doesn't happen to them. I don't want anybody, if I can do anything to stop it, anybody else from going down the path my mom followed, because it was not fun. It was horrible.
Sure, I can imagine. I know some people whose parents have also experienced dementia, and I know that was a very painful process, watching their parent go through that. And, you know, you hear so much about preventing heart disease through diet, preventing diabetes through diet, but I don't recall hearing too much about preventing, you know, dementia or other brain issues through your diet.
Yeah. So, and that's a shame because mostly dementias are preventable. It's a lifestyle disease, and heart issues, high blood pressure, diabetes, obesity is a huge risk factor. All of those things can contribute to the likelihood of you developing dementia. So if we look after those other parts, the heart and the kidneys and the sugar, then we have a much better chance of preventing, because we are not at the mercy of our genes. We are in control of our genes. We may have what's called the APOE4 genetic predisposition to getting dementia or Alzheimer's, but it's only activated if our lifestyle triggers it for most people, not everybody, but most people. Right. So that means we have a good chance of stopping it, but we have to be conscious of what we put in our mouth, how much we exercise, all of those things.
Absolutely. I became vegan almost 5 years ago. I lost my mom to a heart attack, and that really made me start to pay attention to how food made me feel. And when I transitioned gradually being a vegetarian, and then, or I go vegan for like a month, and then I would eat meat or dairy, and I just felt awful. Like, you start to notice when you take something out, how good you feel. And then when you incorporate it back in your life, you're like, I'm better off just sticking with the other stuff. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's definitely a gradual process. So, and we'll talk a little bit more about this as we go on with our discussion. So we're here to talk about navigating change and keeping sanity. So, what is your experience with change?
Wow, so much change. I'm 64 years old and this is marriage number 3. So that alone is a bunch of changes. But the most recent big change was leaving my 25-year marriage and moving from California back to Canada and starting over. Absolutely from scratch. At the same time, I was given a diagnosis of rheumatoid arthritis and my mom's dementia diagnosis happened all at the same time. So I had no job, no marriage. I was diagnosed with RA. I was afraid I would never be able to play my harp like it was finished. And my mom's really, really sick. That was a kick in the teeth, that's what it felt like. I didn't know what I was going to do. But somewhere, and I think it was, this is going to sound so bizarre. I was on a train and I saw my reflection in the window of the train going through a tunnel. And I thought, oh man, you look really bad. You look really bad. You got to snap out of this, because I was feeling very hopeless and didn't know what I was going to do with my life. And seeing myself look like that kind of snapped me out of it. And I realized that I had let myself, firstly, I wasn't eating properly. I wasn't vegan at the time. I was eating terribly. I was just trying to save money, all those things. And I realized that this is all coming from here. None of this stuff, I can get through any of this. I've only let it happen. I've only got to this state because I've let my mind let me go there, right? So I had to go back, and when I got finally to my condo in Toronto, I said, okay, I have to make some serious changes. I have to take control. And that big change in my life made me realize that it's just time, and a lot of it is just in our head, right? And I think that's where we have to, if we're going to stay sane, we have to remember that most of it's just in our head. These things, these fears are mostly false, right? They're not real things to fear. And I think that was what I needed to see. I needed to see how I looked and what reflection I was giving to the world and to myself. So that was how I kind of dealt with that. And that's when I started researching for my own health, for mom's health, and my life has changed in so many ways. I can't even begin to express how much better it is when I took control like that.
Yeah, I can relate a lot to your story. Thank you for sharing that. I went through a divorce process almost 12 years ago, started that process. And there was a lot that led up to that point. Then there was a lot of stuff after that point. And I can relate to what you were saying about seeing my reflection in the mirror and just seeing, I ignored a lot of things, not to get into all of it, but there was a lot of things I suppressed and I didn't want to address. And I just saw myself in my reflection in the mirror, and it was just very painful what I saw back at me in my eyes and just everything. And so I can relate so much to that. And yes, it's scary when you have to take those leaps, but it reached a point where it was like, either you're like between a rock and a hard place. It's like either I stay miserable where I am, or I go through a different level of misery trying to make the change.
To get out of it. Yeah, because if you just stay where you are, then that's where you are. You're stuck. So you have to make that choice, decide to make that choice. And I I kind of had the choice made for me, like to do the move. But it was just, it's amazing when we look at ourselves either in a physical way or in a more intellectual or emotional way, reflecting back on what we appear to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And my mom was an inspiration for me with her death, because for years she would be like, oh, I'm going to do this one day. One day I'm going to do this. And she would always have lists of things she meant to accomplish each year. And then she had a heart attack and she was unconscious for a few days and then passed away. And then for a couple of years after that, I kind of tolerated some things. I kept tolerating and kind of went into this numb state I was realizing things in my life that needed to change, but I wasn't ready to do anything about it. So I just kind of like was a zombie for a couple of years. Just
Yeah, I understand.
and then I realized, and then I started to take action because my mom didn't take action, and I
Right.
didn't. We don't know how many one days we have, and it's so
Right.
important to and start small.
Yeah, exactly. I love, there's a meme about, don't leave the fancy dishes and wear your good clothes and that sort of thing. And that resonates with me a lot too, because when my mom died 2 years ago, we went into her clothing and she had like 20 pairs of brand new shoes that she'd never worn, saving them
Mhm.
for a better time. She never used the fancy china. We gave it away. All of her jewelry. I mean, I took it all because my sister didn't want it, but I have it, but she never wore it. I never saw my mother wear jewelry. I didn't even know she had all that jewelry.
Wow.
But it was just saving it for another time. What time? So
Yeah,
use it, wear it, enjoy it.
absolutely. My mom did the same thing. She would buy things and just save them. And yeah, and so when you see these things with our parents,
Yeah.
it's awakening, and it sounds like we both found ways to recycle those painful lessons to help
Yeah.
others, either through their journeys of pain or to try to prevent a similar pain.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you for sharing that. And so when it comes to navigating change and keeping your sanity, decision making is and that can be very challenging, especially when we're sometimes so overwhelmed we don't even know what decisions to make.
Yeah. And if you're not healthy, right, it's really hard. So on an intellectual level, you can say, I know I need to make these changes, and you can decide to make those changes. But if you're not really healthy, your brain is not healthy. And if your brain isn't healthy, you can't make those good decisions and those changes. You can't
Right.
take that action. So it's like this big circle. If you're not healthy, you can't make those decisions, but you can't get healthy because you can't make those decisions. So that's when you need help. People
Yeah.
like yourself and I, we help people navigate that so that they don't get lost in the process, because it's really easy. I didn't have anyone until I found a naturopath in Toronto who helped me. I needed someone to hold my hand and guide me a little bit through this process so that I didn't get lost, because I wasn't healthy, and I didn't even know that I didn't know I was as unhealthy as I really was. So, and I think that's part of it too. When you're going through these things, you don't even know where you're starting sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes you don't realize the pain that you're in until you've released it or corrected something.
Yeah.
Like when I went before I went through my divorce, I had gone to therapy to address a lot of issues, trauma, the unresolved loss of my mom suddenly without any warning, and all these different things. And that was like the worst month ever, because I was finally like poking at things I wanted to pretend weren't there. And then after a month of going to therapy, all of a sudden it was like these clouds had lifted and I felt very different. I started to see things very clearly in my life in a way that I didn't ever think was possible. Like I didn't realize
Yeah.
how cluttered my brain was
Yeah. Yeah.
until I started going through that process. So yeah, it is so important to find support with whatever you're experiencing, whether it's therapy,
Yeah.
coaching, some type of health support, something to get you started.
Yeah, exactly. And if you get, because we all have the best intentions. It's like New Year's resolutions, right? You get started and you think you're going to do it, but it's
Mhm.
pretty easy to fall off the wagon. So it's good to have someone to hold you accountable, not in a strict way, but in a loving way.
Absolutely. And especially if you don't have a lot of supportive people around you in your
Right.
environment,
Yeah.
that can really sabotage any type of success that you're trying to create for yourself. So as long as you have some support for yourself while you're
Yeah.
going through those changes, that's going to help you get through those really tough times more successfully.
Yeah. And reach out.
Oh,
You know, I want to stop just for a moment because
sure.
I didn't even know to reach out because I had been so independent. I've been so, you know, I was always the one looking after others.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't even know that I needed to ask.
Yeah.
And I think that's another thing, especially women, you know, well, everybody, men too, because they don't want to admit that there's a problem. So yeah, it's an issue for everybody, I think, to be able to ask for help.
Absolutely. And I think it's for different reasons. Like for men, it's for different reasons. And then for women, we're like a lot of times we're the caretakers. We're the ones
Right.
who are nurturing and taking care of everybody else, that I think we're conditioned to just kind of like, you know, suck it up and just
Yeah.
oh, it's not
Yeah.
a big deal. I'm fine, when you're really not fine, but you're pretending
Right.
to be fine so everyone else thinks you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, what role does food play on our brain health?
Oh, it's everything, really. Without a good, solid nutrition, you've got nothing. Because firstly, inflammation is one of the reasons our brain doesn't work well. When
Mm.
we have an inflamed gut, that means we probably have an inflamed brain. And the inflamed gut comes from things like dairy and gluten, processed foods, sugar. Sugar is highly inflammatory. Gluten, even if you're not gluten intolerant, even if you don't have celiac disease. And my husband and I have had this discussion many times because we're trying to figure out whether it's the gluten or the glyphosate, because most people, when they eat gluten, it's also not organic and it has glyphosate. Of course, glyphosate's everywhere anyway, right? It's in the water, it's in the air, it's everywhere, even if you're eating organic. So we've had this discussion, what is it that's causing this inflammation? But whatever it is, if your diet is full of things that cause inflammation, that means you're probably going to have some kind of a leaky gut, an inflamed gut, an unhealthy gut microbiome. And if you have those, then you are not going to have a healthy brain, because they're intimately involved. They are, you can't have a healthy one without the other. It just doesn't work. So diet is everything. I am a vegan nutritionist. I strongly believe that most people can get everything they need from a whole foods vegan diet. And I say vegan because I believe that we owe it to the planet and to the animals to not be exploiting them. Yeah. But it is a whole foods plant diet, not plant-based, because plant-based can mean you can have other things in there, right?
Right.
So vegan means you don't. But whole foods are so important. We have to have food that our body knows what to do with. We need to have all of the components of the food. When you start processing food, you take away many of the important things and replace them with heaven only knows what, right? Fillers and all kinds of things that our bodies don't know what to do with. Oftentimes it's sugar, it's, you know, hydrogenated vegetable oils, those sorts of things. They are so, our bodies just don't know what to do with them. So that causes an kind of an allergic reaction, meaning an inflammatory response. So yeah, we have to eat whole foods and organic as much as possible. It's really hard because I know it's very expensive. I'm lucky I live in Ecuador. Here, the organic food is only about 10% more expensive than conventionally grown. So I eat whatever is available organic, I eat it. But in North America, and I'm from Canada originally, and let me tell you, organic food is out of this world expensive there. So I recognize that for many people, it is not going to be an option, but you try to do the best you can, right? The dirty dozen, you want to eat
I was
those
just
organic.
gonna say, yeah, that's always a good list too. Like if you can, you know, modify in some way. And there's also like sprays and ways you can clean produce a little extra.
Clean it a little bit. Yeah. So the dirty dozen, you want to stay away from those if at all possible. The kale and the spinach and strawberries and apples, those are highly sprayed more than just about anything else. So stay away from those. And you can find those easily just going on the internet saying dirty dozen. And you can find the list from I think it's the environmental working group has the list, and the Clean 15. So you know what, if you can't have everything organic, go to the Clean 15, and like avocados are relatively safe because they've got the thick skin and that sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, food is I'm in Brooklyn, so it's very expensive.
I'm sure it is.
Here,
yeah, and this
everywhere.
time of year, it's like in Canada, it's atrociously expensive.
Absolutely, and also just with everything increasing and going up, I've been doing more with dried beans lately.
Yeah.
I'm being able to work from home. I'll like soak them and then, throw them in pots and things. And I've been creating and experimenting more with some stuff. And I'm the only vegan in my household, but my son and husband will eat stuff. They'll try it. If they like it, they'll eat it.
Well, that's an important thing, because a lot of people, they automatically assume that vegan is going to be boring. It's just vegetables. But there are so many things, like we invite people over to our house all the time. Mm-hmm. And I love to surprise them with the amazing things you can do with beans and rice and vegetables. And I make a vegan, like instead of a ground beef, it's made with mushrooms and walnuts, and it's a taco meat and taco filling. And we put that with a homemade vegan cheese, and we put it over nachos, and people are always astounded that this is 100% vegan. And it's not expensive. The sauce I make doesn't use nuts. It uses carrots and onions and potatoes and white beans.
Ooh, so it's very delicious.
Yeah, if you want it, it's on my website at katekunkel.com under vegan recipes.
I will be checking out your recipes.
Lots of recipes there. And then I have my second book in the Healthy Brain series is called Plant Lovers Fast Start Guide. And inside there are all kinds of recipes as well. Because I truly believe that if people had the chance to taste it, to try these things that are so delicious and not boring at all, they would realize that they don't need cheese, they don't need meat. And we've got lots of protein, lots of nutrients in our food. There's no shortage of nutrients in our food. The only thing, and this is true whether you're vegan or not, it is very hard to get B12 and magnesium in our diets, because it's from the soil, and this soil is dead. Most everywhere the soil is dead, so the microbes aren't there to help B12 to make B12. So we need to supplement. Most people do need to supplement, and that's a big important thing for brain health. You need to make sure that you've got B12 and magnesium and zinc and vitamin D3. Those are very, very important. So I always, all my clients are on supplements. If they're in North America, they have a D3. If they're here, no, we don't need D3. We make all
a lot of sun there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's one thing I'm sure I'm not lacking is D3. Oh, and omega-3 fatty acids. It's really important, because most people have too much omega-6 and not enough omega-3. So those things are important, but it's not hard. This isn't rocket science. It is not, it's common sense mostly. And then just knowing a little bit, like in the Vegan Brain and Plant Lovers Fast Start Guide, I specifically say what foods have what nutrients and how you can get them. And then a recipe to use to make sure you get those things. That's how simple it is. And then once you've got that started, heck, you can go online. There are a gazillion recipes for wonderful, yummy stuff online,
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's one misconception with veganism is like the processed vegan foods. Because there's a lot of vegan junk food out there. You got the Beyond Burgers, which I try to eat mostly whole food, plant-based. And then I'll treat myself to some kind of vegan junk food once in a while.
Yeah.
Although in the winter time, probably having a little bit more than that, but I'm getting back on track. Sometimes I divert off into the vegan junk food, but it's very important to read packaging, because a veggie burger, like the labeling could look really healthy, and then it's 450 milligrams of sodium and then a lot of fat and all these other things.
And hydrolyzed vegetable protein and all this stuff that your body just goes, whoa, what's that crap? and then you get all this inflammation. And also they have scientists who make it, it's their job to make this stuff taste in a way that you want to go back to it, right? So all of the food manufacturers have people like that. So they design this food to make you addicted to it. So you have to be really, really careful. And that's why I just stay away from it. When I'm in Canada, my sister is vegan, but she's not a healthy food vegan. She likes, because she doesn't cook. So she eats a lot of the processed stuff. And when we go out together, I'll have one of those burger things with her. And then I always regret it because I feel so bad afterward. I really do. I don't like the way I feel afterward. But it's, that's just the way it is. It's designed to make you crave it. So people do it, just like burgers and McDonald's fries and those sorts of things. They're designed to make you become addicted to them. So you have to be really careful. And once in a while, if you have one, it's not going to kill you, right? And it's not going to make your brain bad, but it's just not a good thing to do on an ongoing basis.
Yeah, it's everything in moderation. I watched a few years ago the Forks Over Knives documentary, and that was very insightful on just how bad our food impacts everything. And I've used some of their recipes as like a guideline for me to transition into that. So yeah, food's very important, and I will put all the links to all of your stuff in the notes below this video. And I definitely am looking forward to trying out your recipes, because
yeah, and I try to put them up. I even have a couple of videos on YouTube that for the most popular things that people are asking for. So I did a couple of videos. I'm not a cooking video person, but I thought, well, this I can share.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, so there's a couple of YouTube videos because the thing is that a lot of people get stuck because, like, say the vegan butter, like it's expensive to buy vegan butter and vegan cheese. So I put a couple little videos together so you can make vegan butter. It's much less expensive, way tastier.
Wow.
No, artificial anything in it. It uses even nutritional yeast. So you've got the wonderful health benefits of that. So there are lots of ways to do it. And I did that because I want people to understand that you don't have to spend a lot of money to be a vegan. And like you said, people have that conception that it's the expensive fake not meat.
Right, and the cheese, the vegan cheeses that are like $7 for like a packet.
Yeah, like I make a vegan mozzarella that my husband my husband is not 100% vegan. I'm almost getting him there. But like the vegan mozzarella I make, he loves it better than any other cheese.
Wow.
The vegan cheese sauce that I make with, like, you can do it with macaroni and cheese, or you can put it over broccoli or something. He asks for that all the time. So,
and it's guilt-free.
It's guilt-free, it's inexpensive, and it's good stuff.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll definitely be checking that out. Aside from food, which is a very big, important change, what are some other preventative measures that we can take in helping our brain health?
Right. Exercise. Number 2 after food. Well, they run pretty close. Exercise is hugely important. Firstly, it oxygenates. It helps us keep our weight at a decent, because obesity is such a big risk factor. It helps prevent diabetes. I mean, there's so many reasons to exercise, and dancing is one of the best exercises. If you like to dance, you're far ahead of the game, because firstly, your music is very important. It uses parts of our brain that nothing else does. But the actual physical act of dancing, especially if you're dancing in groups, like in with other people, and a partner where you have steps that you have to learn, that is such a good exercise for your brain, body and brain, right? Playing things like tennis or whatever will make you do more than one thing. So like repetitive being on a treadmill, well, that's okay. It's better than nothing, but it's better to have things that engage more parts of your brain. So like table tennis even, or pickleball or tennis, something like that, where you're moving your body and using your brain. Those are really good ways of exercising. And because I had rheumatoid arthritis, and I say had because I haven't had any symptoms for years now, I swim because what the damage that was done to my joints, it's hard to undo that. So my joints are a little bit tender. So I swim a lot. I do but I do aerobics in the pool, and I dance in the pool. I'm sure some of our guests here at the retreat center must think I'm a little bit, but I dance in the pool because I can dance really hard and it doesn't hurt anything. I've got my, whatever music I decide to use that day. But that's an exercise that I do myself. So anything that gets your heart going, you need aerobic exercise, but you also need things that help strengthen you a little bit. So some kind of resistance, and that can be weight training, or like in the pool, I'm pushing against the water, that sort of thing. You want to have something that helps you build a little strength, especially in your thighs, because that will help you with balance. And it's really important to have a good sense of balance, to have good balance, because a fall can be catastrophic for somebody who's even on the edge, right? We need to exercise and do that. The other thing that I would recommend for everybody, keep learning. Don't stop learning. Yeah. And a lot of people, when they retire, you'll notice, I'm sure you've seen it, where people retire and then they just become shells of themselves. Because they're not engaged, they're not learning, they're not interacting. So it's really important to keep your brain moving. Volunteer, teach kids how to read, or tutor math, or anything to stay involved if people are retired. But even if you're not, if you have a job where you do basically the same thing a lot, that's not good for your brain. If you're not engaging it and learning something new. So actively seek out new things to learn and to do. And that can be something like learning to knit, or to crochet, or to sew, or to play chess. Playing chess is amazing for your brain. There are actually all kinds of studies about that. So you have to keep your brain involved. Learn a musical instrument, even better, because the corpus callosum, the piece between your two hemispheres of your brain actually gets thicker and stronger if you learn to play a musical instrument. So that's a really good thing.
So it sounds like balancing our bodies with food and exercise, and then just various activities, and not being stagnant in any one of those areas.
We need to keep learning. We need to keep changing. And we are social animals. One of my big concerns over the last 2 years is the mental health and brain health issues that the isolation can cause, because we need to be with other people. It's just in our DNA. So I highly recommend, if at all possible, get to be with other people, spend time, learn, laugh. Laughter is another thing. It's very important. We need to laugh. Yeah. And with other people, just have a good time, build social relationships that are healthy, and be aware of the kinds of relationships you had. You and I both had relationships that didn't do much for us, right? They're at first, maybe yes, but then later on. And we have to be very cognizant of what those relationships we're in, what effect they have on our brains, on our psyches, because that will have an effect on our brains. And also the kinds of people. So like when we're younger, and we might be with kids who are out, drinking or doing drugs, or staying out really late, or doing risky behavior. Well, it's a lot easier to fall into that, right? If you're surrounded with people like that. So for young people, I say, this isn't a judgment thing. This isn't about good or bad. This is about what can happen to your brain, because those things that can lead toward cognitive decline as you get older, they start very young. So if you have a traumatic brain injury, or if you do pot, or all of those things, they can contribute little bits. It's like little chinks out of your brain that can cause problems later on. So that's really what it's about, being aware of the people you're with, and then deciding, is this good for my brain or not? Is this good for me or not?
Yeah, absolutely. Relationships are so important, and there's so many categories of that, with whether it's friends or family members. And just because you're related to somebody does not mean you're obligated to spend a lot of time with. It's more complicated with family. Maybe you can't cut them out completely,
Right.
but maybe there's things that you can do to set boundaries. A lot of work that I do with my clients is involving with boundaries and, expressing your needs and
Yeah.
and it's very important for all of our health, because when we're around people, what's the saying that we're like something about the top, the 5 people we spend the most time with, we're kind of like a result of those top 5 people, something like
Yeah.
that I've
Yeah.
heard.
And it's true. So think about, by the time you're 7, your brain is basically, your brain isn't complete, but your socialization is basically, that's who you're going to be psychologically and socially. So that we can't do a whole lot about, but as we get older and we can make choices, we can choose whether or not to continue with that circle, right? And our brains, did you know that our brains don't actually finish forming until we're 25?
Oh, wow.
Our brains are, our brains are still developing. And that's why we make bad decisions when we're kids. That's why we make stupid mistakes. Goodness knows I made enough of myself. But now that I know that my brain wasn't finished growing, it wasn't finished developing until I was 25, I feel a lot better about some of the stupid things I did when I know that my brain, it's because my brain wasn't done. It wasn't done. I didn't have all of the capacity, the physical brain capacity to make good decisions. So that's when also it's as parents, it's our job to help guide our youngsters and say, I know you're going to make crazy choices and it's okay, because your brain is not, and when you look back at it, don't beat yourself up, but also be aware of the choices you're making, right? But to know that until you're 25, and that's why, I don't know if it's the same in the States, but in Canada, especially for boys, insurance to drive a car is astronomical until you turn 25. That's because the insurance companies know our brains aren't finished forming until we're 25. And so we make stupid choices. We do stupid things.
Really interesting. Yeah, like I know, like to rent a car, you have to be 25 to be able to rent a car on your own.
Yes.
Like, or otherwise it's maybe you can, but then the insurance is really high. But I know, like, I didn't rent any cars.
No, and that's because they know. They know that's the way our brains are. And even if you never had an accident or you were a great driver, they don't care, because they know your brain isn't ready.
That really makes a lot of things make sense. So this has been a really great conversation. And before we wrap up, how can people work with you?
The best thing to do is just go to katekunkel.com and just kind of see all the things that I have to offer. I love to do group coaching programs. I come up in March. I have my Tune Up Your Brain program, which is my most fun. It's where we use music and meditation, and that's a group. And it's a great way to also get involved with other people, because we have this really amazing support group together. And then there's all kinds of ways. Just go to katekunkel.com. There's a contact form. You can learn more about me and watch some of the shows that I've done myself, and then also get some of the recipes. That'll get you started. Awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of great resources. And are there any other resources that you would like to recommend?
Well, firstly, I would like everybody to understand that there are countless places to get good information to help you be healthier. We have to practice a certain amount of discernment. Dr. Amen, I think it's just dramen.com, is a great place to get really good information, because that way you can learn how your brain actually physically looks when it has different issues. There's a link on my website for that too, but that's a really great place. And there are so many things, but really just enjoy life, take it easy, don't take yourself too seriously, have fun, and go to katekunkel.com and there's so many links there. I have so many links there on the blogs and everything. I have a blog. That's a really good place to start too, because I put all my recent research that I find. I will also write a piece on it there. So there's always something there, and there are so many people with good information.
Awesome. Yeah. So it sounds like your website is an amazing resource of resources.
Yeah, because the blog, I've always got stuff going on there, and the recipes, and that's really. Oh, and Facebook, I have a Facebook group. If somebody really wants, to get involved with others, so it's called Boost Your Brain and Prevent Dementia. I'll give you a link to that, so you can put it in the show notes. And I invite people to join, because we share recipes. I post shows, we do lives, we just have all kinds of fun on there.
That sounds like a lot of fun. Well, thank you so much, Kate, for joining me today. And thank you all for watching. This was an amazing conversation, and I'm looking forward to checking out some of your recipes and trying them out.
I know you'll enjoy them.
I'll let you know when I test them out.
Perfect.
All right. Thank you so much, Kate. And thank you all for joining. Take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye.